All right, ladies and gentlemen, four people from different facets of filmmaking, ad filmmaking, who all represent different aspects of the evolution of Hindi cinema, which has taken some rather exciting turns, and all sorts of exciting turns have been taken as well. The basic subject that we're going to be looking at are wild imaginations and tame audiences. So I really want to start off with somebody whose imagination is probably a bit too wild for just about any audience, tame or otherwise. So I'm going to get you to really start off, Qaushiq Mukherjee, or Q as you are otherwise known. I am conscious that this might be going on a family channel, so I'm trying to see how to say the name of your film. Let me take the chance. It's called Gandu, right? And from there, it sort of proceeds along similar lines.
That wasn't too difficult, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to now try to figure out how to edit that word out, but okay. So a film called Gandu, which is now being called one of India's first sex films, and we're going to get Anurag to talk more on that particular theme in a minute or two. How does it feel to be making a film which can probably never be shown here, or to most audiences?
Well, first I'd probably like to counter the statement's first sex film of India. There have been many sex films in India. I've watched some of them and they're pretty good. And I think I'm trying to make protest film, not a sex film. And sexuality is a tool that I'm using as a form of protest. Largely this is due to our moral fabric and the society that I inhabit. I'm a product of middle-class Bengali household, and a lot of times I've been questioned whether my mother has seen Gandu. The answer to that is no. So yes, how does it feel? It doesn't feel like anything. I have no precedence. All the inspirations that I have are from other cultures, as far as cinema is concerned. However, if you look at it the other way, in literature, in thought, and there are some people here who I'm waiting to eagerly hear them talk. One of them is Sudhir Kakkar. There have been thinkers of great order who have thought about sexuality being a prime form of civilization and the answer or the basic idea where everything originates from. So I don't really understand why, if an artist would like to examine that, why would a country of 1.5 billion try to avoid the question? They couldn't, and now after a year of Gandu's release internationally, 10 days back or a couple of weeks back, it was released online by someone else. And now I guess the whole of India is watching it, right? So you couldn't really stop them from watching it, did we?
But how are they going to be watching it? On the internet here? You're not really going to get a theatrical release. I can't see censors saying, fine, this is a sort of a film we're going to classify and it's going to be showing in multiplexes.
This is exactly why we made the film in the first place. The film was made out of a challenge that there are these situations which don't allow me to make a film that I would like to make. And that I refuse to believe that should be a restriction as far as I'm concerned to be a filmmaker. And just for me to be a filmmaker, I would have to make a certain kind of film which is approachable or marketable. And this idea I don't really buy. I think it's important to have content which means something, which has counter information and can actually be a voice of protest or dissent, raise questions. That's also one function of cinema which we perhaps have forgotten completely.
Anurag, you push the boundaries in many different areas and in many different directions. Were you also, in at least a couple of your films, inspired by the same motive that he has? And is India ready for sex films and porn in general?
I don't know, because, for me, India is a whole lot of haw people, The thing is, it's a land of Kama Sutra and people go haw, only in this country. I've not seen that outside this country.
There's a lot of people here, actually. How did they come?
This is an audience that really enjoyed Papa CJ not that long back, I have to say.
For me, I started questioning things only after my film was banned or stopped. Because I think I was very naive and I believed that I can go out and make what I wanted to make. It's only when I was told what you're doing is wrong and cinema means only healthy entertainment, that's when I started questioning, what am I doing wrong? So, there's a natural growth that you go through as a filmmaker, as an artist, or whatever you call yourself. The moment I got got a camera and I got money to shoot a film, I went about shooting what I have seen around me. And that's all I did. Even whether this, more than sex, it's always the political things that have bothered people in this country. I'm saying sex is something very secondary. The moment you know your boundaries, they become your boundaries. So it doesn't matter what anybody else's boundaries are at that time when you're making a film. But my problem with this country is not about sex. My problem with this country is about politics, religion. When I will be allowed to make films about that? That will be pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
The problem with this country couldn't almost by definition be sex. There are 1.3 billion Indians, I have to say. So, on a point of order there. Prasoon, is there something which you're particularly straight-laced about? I mean, should films like this be encouraged, allowed for a general audience, or should films that are meant for public viewing in multiplexes and in cinema halls be essentially clean entertainment?
The first thing is that I feel that the whole point he's making is a counterpoint. So as much as a film which he has made has a point of view, the society which resists it, or a system which resists it, is also a point of view. That's how organic sort of collision happens, and third thing gets born. If he made the film and everybody said, wow, let's watch it, we love it, he would actually lose the motivation to make that cinema. The fact that you need the resistance. You need the resistance to be able to say that. So it is equally important and equally democratic, that resistance. We often call that system and abuse it. I feel that has to be respected at the same time as much as we respect the freedom of expression. That's also freedom of expression of certain kind. So both of them.
But you're saying that he's doing it almost deliberately because he thinks there's going to be audience resistance to it. Is that what you're saying?
It is his self-expression, and there is some other self-expression also there, which is a counterpoint. So I think both are valid. In a society, you can't say that it will be a placid society where whatever you say will be accepted and there will be no, resistance towards it. It is very natural to have resistance towards something which you are not comfortable with. So I am not uncomfortable with a situation like this. I feel it's pretty valid. He's finding his way. In fact, a film like this, if it was probably accepted, I think would have been would have passed like a ship at midnight. The fact that people are downloading it and finding ways also creates a cult kind of cinema, which is an underground. That's how underground music survives. That underground voices have survived, and I think that's the reason it exists.
Does it make good business sense, or does it not make good business sense to try and find a really controversial subject, whether it is sex or politics or any number of other controversial subjects, which would therefore get attention, because at the end of the day, as marketeers would say, there's no such thing as bad publicity?
No, I think in cinema, I think we are becoming, I think Indian cinema is the most confused cinema today. Either we are completely led by businessmen, or on the other hand, people are trying to find the meaning of pushing the envelope and boundaries. And there is no sort of consensus what it means, pushing the envelope. A lot of people say that our cinema is not subtle enough. We're very in your face. We say everything aloud. But I think there is something missing out there. If you go back to earlier cinema and the black and white era, you find a lot of good cinema there, which people, why do you find good cinema there? There are various reasons for it. One primary reason was that a lot of literature was available, which was converted into cinema. So there was a continuum. See, I think we are missing what is subtle for India. It is impossible that a society which is as old as India doesn't have subtle expressions. That everything needs to be said aloud. It is not possible. It's just that I think the way we look at subtlety, the way we look at Indian culture, I think the people who are making cinema for Indian people, they don't come from there. I know a lot of Bollywood people have said, who have looked at and they have accepted that. This gentleman I met, a famous filmmaker, he said that when I grew up, किसान मैंने फिल्मों में देखा था. I had never seen a villager. I had never seen a farmer. I learned about farmer from the Bollywood films. The fact is, when such people are making films for Indian audience, they do not understand what is subtle for them. It is impossible that the country doesn't have subtle expressions, doesn't have art where you can say what is art. I mean, you said it but without saying it. Those are the things which you find in Western cinema. So we use those parameters of French cinema or Italian cinema, and we feel our audience is not getting it. Why should they get it? You've not got into. He's making a film about a gali. You go to in Indian rural areas. There's a tradition of gali there. In the weddings where the relatives do abuse each other. Go and make a cinema on that, and then you will not find resistance there. It only happens when you sort of a foreign element enters your whole world, which you do not know anything about, and you create a reality out of that. So that is what I think is the problem.
Anurag, you're trying to say something.
No, I'm just saying because, I have been traveling a lot last few months. And I went to Lebanon and I went to a whole lot of countries. When you travel, you realize that the countries which we think are far more conservative than us, they have much more stronger dissent and they allow it. You go to Pakistan, the voice of dissent is much more stronger than it is in India. We are supposed to be a democracy. And we don't practice it. I don't know what kind of thing. We make children films. We actually make children films because the whole idea of the thing is, does it make business sense? It doesn't always have to make business sense. And if cinema is expression, cinema is kind of slowly replacing literature, then it should also take on those responsibilities. And if a filmmaker or a film, if I am not making the kind of films that are making business sense or don't work, then why am I still making films? I've made 10, 11 films. Some of them are not released. I'm still making films and the world is allowing me to make films. So there is an audience, and it's just that, whether it's with Arakshan or wherever, the protests are somewhere, I have always seen it's always been political. And there have always been a backdoor, someone who has made a call and said that, we can settle it ourselves. You don't need to go public about it. It's always been the case, including Panch. Then also it was that, we could have sorted it out ourselves. Why did you go and fight against us? It's always been the case. So it's never that somebody who says that this film should be banned or stopped, they are just afraid. They're just afraid. I've had discussions because I said I will take on Gandu, I'll release it. I was ready to put in everything. But they're just afraid. They're afraid of what other people will think of them. And that's where we need to come out of that. We need to come out of that in order to make films. We need to push boundaries. Thank God a Gandu has been made and we are over it. And we can move further and we can address other issues.
Yeah. We have just about 5 subjects. In the last 100 years, I think in the Indian history, the most significant event has been partition, where millions of people were overnight kind of, moved. And how many films do we have on that trauma, the whole trauma of partition? Look at Holocaust. Hollywood and European cinema has hundreds of films, and every kind of film, whether it is sports or even poignant comedy like The Beautiful. And in every manner they have dealt with it and they continue to deal with it. We just consider cinema to be business and nothing else. And in this business, it is becoming narrower and narrower. Now we are just having...
Yeah, but we treat it more like a catering service. We don't use it as
You can't make more than...
We are caterers, then not filmmakers.
There are five heroes. You can't make a project without them. And those heroes have also become producers now.
No, but I was about to ask you that question. Does it bug you in any way, Anurag, that you would struggle to get 3 crores or 4 crores in financing for a small indie film, but you can presumably raise 170 crores for other types of films.
The biggest blessing in the world has been the social networking sites. Why? Because simply right now we have 4 films in production. For the 3 films, money has been raised on social networking sites. We don't need to go to the studios anymore.
How does that work as a business model?
Nothing. We just put out our ideas. I said we want to make a film. In 8 hours, we raised 60 lakh rupees to start a film. In 8 hours flat. We don't need studios anymore to make film. And which is why I am getting to make the kind of films I want to make. We are producing films in Malayalam, Marathi. His next film is also being co-produced by us. We are being supported by people from worldwide. We are being funded internationally. We are making a film. Monies have come from Europe, Germany, everywhere. We don't need studios. We don't need the system to make the films that we want to make.
And, are you finding that easy too?
I would just, whatever I've done so far for 7 years, my documentaries, my films, they have seen not one Indian penny, right? Neither in the funding stage, nor after we sell it. So therefore, India is obviously, I'm an Indian filmmaker, I'm working out of India, I'm telling Indian stories, but India doesn't care about it. It's not that. The audience is fucking ready. It's the middlemen who are not. They are the scared fuckers who wouldn't let us do anything, right? What if their market went, man? What if no children came to watch movies anymore? What if movies really became adult? Like he said, our cinema is 12-year-old, man. We need to
Cinema is for that universal 10-year-old audience.
So you would like to see full adult films here, and there.
I am an adult. We are all
I'm sure
adults
the business
here.
model for that would be absolutely perfect. So
No, we need to get over that whole thing of adult films. See,
Yeah,
we need to address real
exactly.
issues. We need to make real films. Sex is a non-issue.
Yeah,
We need to get over it. It's available. It's on the net.
Yeah.
We need to get over it.
Wank and come and let's talk.
That's a valid point. You can see as much of it as you want now on the net.
Absolutely. I mean, but I'm saying that what we were talking about, then when he said about the 5 heroes and all that, I think this is a parallel movement happening. Okay, this is.
So
but
there are
this
going to
is
be two parallel cinemas.
That is yes, and there is a.
I mean,
sense
those
of-
films aren't going to make 80 crores on day one or
These are
first
films.
weekend.
What we do
We
is
don't
business.
want to make 80 crores on one
These
day.
are films that you do as business. You include your own films in that.
Honestly speaking, can you make a really political film in this country? You can't.
You can't.
You've tried. He made it.
I made it. I'll tell you, the reason Black Friday got made in this country and it will never be made again. It was made by a newspaper, Midday, which had no production experience. If anybody in that company was from the film industry, it would not have been allowed. If I was not so naive and innocent that I want to shoot exactly where the things happened, and they said, yeah, that will bring in authenticity. We were all children, wide-eyed, wanting to recreate everything, and we did it to the point that a night sequence shot in the middle of the ocean, where the RDX comes in, we went to the real place where it happened, whereas in the night it could have been shot in Warsaw. So we were that foolhardy to make that film. It will never be made in this country. It can't be made in this country, and it was banned. And the kind of trauma everybody went through, Midday never made another film. It did not produce another film. So I'm saying it has, and all my films that people say have been made, you have to understand, they've been made by producers, which were new producers, the company that was starting, and it was often the first film of that company.
Perhaps, and in some cases, the last as well, which is
Vikram,
somewhat worrying.
Yeah.
For all the people providing funding now on social networking sites, that
and-
is
but
something
you
to
know,
worry about.
seriously, if you go, if what is your measure of how many people watch a film? I'm saying, suppose you go on a IMDb and you judge by number of people voted for a film, right? If you see the number of votes for Ready are same as the number of votes for Shaitan.
Is that the case?
Yes, but box office figures are huge. There's a huge
Yes,
difference.
but then that's because a lot of the people who would be watching Ready or Bodyguard don't necessarily have internet access.
No,
So that's
I'll
not
tell you, we have
that's
a
not
we have a very
completely
big
fair
audience.
comparison.
We have
At
a
the end of the day, a lot more people are going to watch Ready or Bodyguard than would watch any of these films.
no, but I'll tell you,
We are confused.
we have a lot more audience, but they are the non-paying torrent downloading audience.
See, there is a,
That's an educated audience.
okay, we are coming back, going back and forth, and
We had a very civilized parallel cinema movement, very authentic parallel cinema movement.
You mean that was a civilized one and this is uncivilized, if I can read
70s
between the
and
lines.
80s. No, I'm talking about the way the middlemen that they are talking about, which is a fact because you have 5 or 6 corporates, or you have certain kind of brokers who sell your film to distributors. The whole system has gone through a complete overhaul. But can you realize that in the 80s, there were a whole lot of us, Ketan Mehta, Saeed Mirza, me, Kundan, and bunch of us, we were making films. We're not bothered about distribution. We're not bothered about anything.
Exactly.
I made Damol, I made Parinati.
Those parallel movements have always existed.
Always
What I'm
existed.
saying is, you guys are doing a wonderful job. All I'm saying is, there is a parallel movement which was always there, which fought a different battle than the mainstream cinema is facing. And when we talk about this mainstream cinema, there also difference have been made, like films like Tare Zameen Par, which probably is a film which is risky in business sense, but makes hell of a lot of sense, and it proves out to be a business success. That's the arena where he said 5 stars are dominating that arena. These 5 stars are created by whom? It is created by lazy people who thought if star ka naam bikta hai, to hamare liye acha hai. We're fine. Yeah, we just keep making money out of them. So they became monsters.
But it's not entirely, it's not that it never happens that you have mainstream cinema watched by millions of people, which is not meaningful, which is not good, which is not different. You mentioned Tare Zameen Par, there have been other films like that also.
Yes, they have, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You were trying to
But
think of
that's,
which one.
No, what I'm saying, that's where we are missing more films. That's where the difference needs to be made. And that's where the envelope has to be pushed. And what are we doing
whole
there?
rise of Amir Khan over the last 11 years has been defined by the kind of quality he's brought into mainstream. Yeah. So it is not just like that. Amir Khan has gradually, step by step, film by film, risen, right? He has brought in a certain kind of sensibility in mainstream cinema. Raju Hirani and all those people, Prakash Jha, when he started doing Aparan and all that, look at his graph. I'm saying there is a kind of a sensibility being brought in. There's been a attempt to do that in the mainstream. Today's mainstream successful filmmakers are not making films which are just like that. You know, they are trying to use it. And our thing is, everybody has always accused us of trying to change everything. We have only fought to coexist. Our whole fight is to coexist.
But you have got converts already.
Yeah. Whole fight is to coexist. I am saying, I cannot make the cinema that you're making. I love it. I can't make it. But should also be allowed to make the films that I should be allowed to make, and which I am being allowed to now. Now I am being allowed to make that film.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, let's get back from your wild imaginations to the tame audiences for a minute. What in India, to your minds, and I want to ask all of you this question, are really the taboos that are going to continue to hold out the longest? In Gandu, of course, I'm trying to think of which ones. Sex, obviously, drugs, there's religion, there's politics. What do you think is the biggest taboo? Let me start with you.
I think I want to make a film. I want to make probably a simple conversation piece where two guys probably sitting there discussing the UPA government versus the NDA government, using and taking names. Can I do that? Because in America, they can make a film called Death of President while George Bush is alive. While George Bush is in power, they made a film called Death of a President about a mock assassination of him, and they allow that film. Now that's the meaning of democracy for me. Why can't just a random guy on the street can comment on, say, Sonia Gandhi on a film, and why do I have to take it out just because it's a political name?
How far are you going to allow that to go? Like the Prime Minister equivalent, as has happened recently in Australia, getting up to it, if you like, in the office under the flag. Is that how far you'd like to see Indian cinema going?
You know what I think? If I'm making a film that does not make sense, give the power to the audience to reject it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also, I would say that the taboo is, again, coming back to the same point, it's not about, dissent is also, we are part of the cinema movement. We are obviously, I am hugely influenced by whatever cinema has been made and the taboos that have been actually addressed. A lot of people have tried a lot of things. The problem is that the disintegration of the parallel film industry in the 1980s. And if you see the structure, the funding structure, the way government supported or public money supported this kind of things, most of the films that we are doing is made with public money. Because another thing is that we want to make films, not money, right? So we need the money to make the film, not the film to make some money. So the taboo for me is there, right? We have to address that one.
And we have a break-even structure. Why do we need the pressure of breaking box office records?
Yeah, exactly. All our films have returned all the money
back. That's it. We break even over a period of time. And if not immediately, then maybe over 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're happy with that.
Yeah. But okay, for the audiences, what do you think is the ultimate taboo? I mean, you tried reservation, what else? Religion?
Everything. I mean, you can't say, in fact, you can't openly talk about anything in this country.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Bahu is okay.
I'm not talking about the merit or demerit of Arakshan, but can you imagine that no one had seen Arakshan when all those halabulu and although the protests began and there were people throwing stones at my office, there were cops everywhere, they were like, Mayawati told me and Mr. Bachchan that if you step onto Lucknow airport, you'll get arrested. And no one has seen the film. No one knows what there is in the film.
True.
So you really
Anything can become a taboo.
you can't think.
I-
You can't think properly in this country, and you can't say what you want.
You just can't say what you
And
feel.
this is democracy.
Okay, Prasoon's about to disagree
I
with you.
absolutely disagree. I feel in this country, you go to Iranian cinema, you can't have more restrictions. I think artists in this country have been taking this easy way out by again and again saying we are not getting the freedom. I think we've got enough freedom in this country. The fact is, you look at the fantastic cinema came out of Makmal Buff, coming out of Majid Majidi. They have created stories which are beautiful. They are piece of art, born out of restriction, born out of dissent, and still
Most of the Iranian filmmakers are banned in their country. 7 of them arrested.
still they made.
They live out London. I met Makmal Buff lives in England.
But our society allows a lot.
No, Makmal Buff lives in England. There's a price on his head.
You are equating Iran with
His
India.
point is that it's
You are-
not that
how
you
can
don't
you
have the
equate
freedom to
Iran
make the
with
film. You may
India?
not
I
make
think
money
we
from
have
the
enough
film,
freedom to make
but you
films.
have the freedom is his point.
Yeah.
You have DK Bose as a song right now.
That's
You're saying
because
you
there
don't
was
freedom.
already a precedence of a Gali becoming a hit. Probably. Who knows? Who knows that DK Bose wasn't used as a material that could set the box offices on fire because suddenly India thought that it was cool to have a Gali.
No, but
But why are you saying that you're not allowed to, excepting in a few
No,
cases?
I
That's his
love it.
point.
I love the idea that Amir Khan made a film like Delhi Belly, DK Bose, because all the moralists in the film industry shut up at least.
Yeah.
You know, they hid their faces. And Delhi Belly actually makes me as a filmmaker much more liberated because I feel that, okay, fine, that's done. Now let's do next. So I think he's one guy who has the courage to do those things, and I completely, hats off to him.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, hang on. So sex is done, toilet humor is done. What
I'm saying
is
everything, I'm saying let's just move ahead. We are not yet there.
next? Move ahead to what? I have to say I'm curious and somewhat apprehensive. So, just
But why
enlighten
cinema?
us. What is next?
Why not? We should look at our future. We should
asking you what?
expect
What is the future?
what our
What
cinema,
next?
what our filmmakers
Was only
there for.
Gandu is not the future. I mean, you're saying that
Or the future
let
could be
me
an
abuse. Why societies respect, why sensitivity towards people's problems, why things people accept can't be cinema subjects. Why
They could
only
be. You
only
will never
breaking
find funding
no.
for it.
Why
You'll
only
never find funding for it. So
Hang on,
therefore
hang on.
you won't be able
You're
to make
saying that if he says, you're saying that you can't get funding for that, so
sensitive
that's why a
cinema,
film
well,
can't be
then,
made.
Then a lot of sensitive
A
cinema
film
would
about
have
a
been
good
out there,
person
right?
who's leading a good, clean life cannot
No,
be made because
everything
you have
is
funding for
good.
it.
I'll tell you what, I'm saying
So you have
30
to have a
years,
correct.
last 30 years we have been making films with social messages about how we have to be a good human being.
Yeah.
Right?
But
it
why
has not changed anything. I'm saying
Now
let's
you're
go
saying you
beyond
should make,
that.
now you're saying
Let's
make a film
address
about
real
being a bad
issues.
human being.
No, I'm saying let's address real issues and all sorts of films should be made. I'm saying a person should be allowed to make an absolutely crass film if he wants to. I'm saying all sorts of films
true,
should be
there are lots of
allowed.
absolutely
Only
crass
come-
films that are
agree-
being made.
Agree, you have self-expression of crassness. You please go ahead and do it, but why only
No,
that?
why
is-
not? I'm saying why,
Even Makmal Buff.
But
all
that's what
sensitive
happens.
movies should also be allowed. But I'm saying we should also start trying to make films by cutting the melodrama out.
Some section of audience will like DK Bose, some section of audience will like Amir's films. What I'm trying to say,
Everything
And
should
a
be
large section of audience does like Reddy or,
everything should be allowed.
Let them have all of it.
yeah,
The problem is nobody is restricted from making readies and all that.
No.
We are the ones restricted.
Yeah.
you have to accept everything as you are saying, and you have to be part of, the process of growth which the Indian cinema
See,
is
pushing
seeing
the
so
envelope can't only mean that I want to fight against. Okay, let me abuse. Let me show nudity. That can't
Absolutely,
be pushing the
absolutely.
envelope. Pushing the envelope could be art, and art can. It is not only restricted to playing with society rules all the time and saying, I will jump out on the window nude, everybody should accept it. Now, that can't be the only way of getting noticed.
Could be very effective.
No, but hang on. He's making an interesting point. Is it that that is the sort of film you make, not because it's the only form of expression, but because that's the only way you can shock enough people to get attention?
Not at all.
You're making a film on a saint, nobody's
Not
going to
at
get
all.
attention to it.
When you are making a film about a loser from Howrah, then obviously there would be realistic situation around it which you have to portray in that manner. This is why I told you that Gandu is not about sex, or why are we even talking about Gandu? We can talk about any other film, but there is no other film to talk about in this present situation which addresses nudity or public sexuality or our understanding of our individual sexuality or showing realism in terms of human portrayals. There is no precedence and it is not allowed. So that's where we want the area. We want that area. We want that bandwidth so that we can also reach out and we can. Otherwise, it has to be underhand, and that's what we are debating here.
See, the pre-market economy culture and sensibilities of India and post-market economy culture and sensibilities of India, they're very, very different. Okay. I mean, we were almost forced into the kind of cinema that we have come into. Now you're talking about thinking, like, sometime back I announced that I was doing a film called Satyagraha.
Right.
Vikram, you can't imagine how many people in this country have already started advising me as to what should be there in Satyagraha.
And what the Satyagraha should be against, presumably.
And Satyagraha by Satyagraha, how are you going to present Mr. Anna Hazare? Who is going to, I mean, you can't imagine the
All right, well,
advices.
I'm sorry to curtail all your freedom of expression right now, but one of the things we're not allowed to do is go over time once the bell rings. So thank you all so much for a really interesting and entertaining session.
Thank you. Thank you.